Right, now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by the Professor of Government and Politics Department, Political Science, Usman Danfodio University, Professor Abubakar Abdullahi. Tonight we're discussing lingering crisis within ECOWAS. Prof, good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Right, so let's first begin by establishing the significance and purpose for which the regional union was created. What led to the creation of ECOWAS?
Well, ECOWAS was created around 1975. That's precisely 49 years ago. And it was purposely created to ensure economic cooperation between and among member nations that are located in West African sub-region. In fact, the idea of ECOWAS came about as a result of the desire or the need to push for economic integration, to push for cooperation between and among West African countries, so that they can have a common front in terms of designing and packaging of policies and programs that could facilitate economic development in the entire sub-region. Largely, that was the major reason why ECOWAS was created. But over time, ECOWAS has also extended its scope and the mandate and include the need for regional stability and security, the need for political development in different parts of West African sub-region. And that was why ECOWAS has been moving in and out of the member nations to ensure that not only economic cooperation is guaranteed and enhanced, but political and regional and political development and security and the safety of lives and properties of all citizens across the member nation is, honestly speaking, actualized and guaranteed. So it was more or less like a framework or a model that is designed to push and facilitate economic development of the entire sub-region of West Africa.
Right, Prof. So if ECOWAS was established with one goal in mind, which is to promote cooperation and integration in order to raise the living standards of its people and maintain this enhanced economic stability, can you say that the group has lived up to expectation among member states?
Well, so far we can say so good as far as the mandates and the objective for which ECOWAS was established achieved. One, we have seen ECOWAS, especially during the 90s and towards the end of, at the beginning of 90s and towards the end of 90s, pushing for democratic and governance reforms in different parts of West African sub-region. We have seen then through the activities of ECOWAS, which led to the stability in Sierra Leone. We have seen what they have done in Liberia. We have seen also their effort in ensuring peaceful transfer of power in the Gambia and in many other parts of ECOWAS sub-region. And they have also come up with different kind of policies and programs, some of which are economic and political, which I think have facilitated development in different parts of the region. We have seen the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance. We have seen ECOWAS protocol on peace and security. We have seen also ECOWAS programs on transportation, on trade, and the custom. Therefore, ECOWAS has relatively done well in its efforts towards promoting economic cooperation and ensuring integration across the West African sub-region. But nonetheless, there are areas where ECOWAS have not performed very well, especially in dealing with problems of general insecurity that engulf virtually a significant part of West Africa following democratization process precisely from the end of 1990s today. But generally speaking, ECOWAS have done relatively well in terms of actualization of its mandates or objective across the sub-region.
Right. But let me also ask you one of the questions that many continues to seek answers to. In just 3 years, Africa has had 7 coup d'etats in Burkina Faso, Mali, Sudan, Niger, Guinea. Why do we keep seeing a preponderance of coup in Africa, especially among ECOWAS member states?
Problem in most part of Africa following democratization was the inability of the new and the emerging political leadership to manage governance very well. And in fact, this could be seen in the manner with which problems of corruption, problems of insecurity, problems of economic mismanagement have characterized virtually every country across the sub-region. So the problems of bad governance or poor governance, characterized by poorly managed elections and the inability of most of this political leadership across the sub-region to recognize and appreciate early warning signals, especially in the area of economic challenges and, of course, general insecurity, virtually trigger the emergence of military intervention and different kinds of military coups that we have seen in the last 3 years across the sub-region. So the fundamental problem that brought about military phenomena or military coups in different parts of Africa, and in particular in ECOWAS sub-region, was largely the problem of poor or bad governance, which I think we must work on it for us to be able to address or reduce the propensity of military intervention in different parts of the Sahel region. And don't also forget that military coups have contagion effects. Therefore, the possibility of its occurrence in one country may probably trigger its emergence in another country, especially where countries share or are very close to each other. And that is why early warning signals that have been seen in different parts of the sub-region, especially in those countries that are close to some of these countries that were affected by military coups, the political leadership must take adequate measures to ensure that they avoid the emergence of this kind of phenomena in those countries that surrounds some of these countries that were affected by the military coup in the last 3 years. So the major problem of poor or bad governance, I think, was largely responsible for some of these military coups that we have seen in the sub-region, from Niger Republic, which I think is the most recent, to Mali, to Guinea, and several other countries across the continent of Africa.
So also worrisome for many is this trend or this pattern of citizens of this member states reacting to this military takeovers with so much optimism. What does this say?
Well, it clearly demonstrates that all is not well with democratization process in most of these countries. Citizens are not reaping the benefits of democracy, which I think democratic government is always characterized with. The fundamental problem of insecurity. Many of these countries that were affected by military coups are becoming like a breeding ground of domestic insurgencies across the sub-region. So people now can hardly differentiate between what democratic government is and what a non-democratic system of rule is. And therefore, the ordinary citizens are looking for an option, an alternative that can, as a matter of fact, bring about peace and stability in this kind of countries, that can bring food on the table of every citizen of this kind of countries, that can ensure a peaceful coexistence between and among citizens that makes of this kind of countries. So all this question now revolves back to the question of poor and bad governance, where we have quality leadership that manage our problems very well, that is competent enough to handle the problems of insecurity, problems of economic underdevelopment, problems of serious and sharp patronage kind of politics, problems of poorly managing elections, manipulation of constitutions to favor a group of individuals, a group of citizens, notably the political leadership. I think we will continue to see some of this kind of acceptance on the part of the ordinary citizens of the state, because to an ordinary citizen in Africa, and indeed in this part of the world, the purpose of governance is to ensure that peace and stability is guaranteed. And I think the whole idea of having a modern nation state, whether you look at it from the perspective of Hobbes or Locke or any other perspective, is to guarantee safety and the security of lives of all. And that is what defines social contract, which I think was the philosophical foundation for the creation of state, at least in the modern sense. So where we fail as citizens, as leadership, to manage our problems of economy, our political problems, our diversity problems, then we'll continue to see this kind of general acceptance on the part of the citizens of this kind of regime changes that are unacceptable in the 21st century Africa.
All right. So, Prof, help us simplify this. According to the protocol governing exit from ECOWAS, any country that wants to exit must give a one-year notice, in which period ECOWAS will check if the requirements are met. In the case of these countries, they didn't give notice. How will this play out?
I have not given notice because I listened to Radio France this morning, and it was reported on that Mali and I think Burkina Faso have tendered their letters of withdrawal to ECOWAS. What these letters contain, how they are going to withdraw, I think it now largely depends on what is in those kind of letters. But more importantly, what we need to understand and appreciate here is that entry and exit into any international institution, whether ECOWAS, African Union, or United Nations, is at the volition of individual countries. They may decide to say that, yes, we are coming back today, or they may decide to withdraw their membership at any point in time. Therefore, what is going to happen in the next few days is what will determine whether this one-year grace that is required before a member nation withdraw its membership from ECOWAS is going to be, strictly speaking, adhered to or otherwise.
So, I mean, now, in their joint statements on Sunday, the joint heads of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso said that instead of helping their countries fight the security threats facing them, ECOWAS imposed illegitimate, inhumane, and irresponsible sanctions when they staged the coup to take their destiny into their own hands. Is coup the answer?
Hello?
Prof,
Hello?
did you get my question?
No, can you repeat yourself again, please?
Right, so I wanted you to react to the statements by these three states. In a joint statement on Sunday, the three countries said instead of helping their countries fight the security threats facing them, ECOWAS imposed sanctions when they staged the coup to take their destiny into their own hands. So I'm asking, is coup the answer?
Well, honestly speaking, as a full-blown Democrat, I don't believe in military coups as an alternative option to democratic system of rule. And I think what should have been done is for these countries, whether collectively or individually, to sit together with their citizens and chart a new course on how to bring about desired changes that are required to move their individual countries or collectively forward. The new military leadership in the countries that are affected by this problem with ECOWAS, I think, are only using such kind of excuses to justify their emergence, so as to attract sympathy, especially from the ordinary citizens in those kind of countries. But fundamentally, to say that ECOWAS have not done anything to them, I think is honestly speaking untrue. We have seen different kind of ECOWAS protocols, bilateral and multilateral agreements in trade, in commerce, in security, in democracy and governance that have been facilitated by ECOWAS. And all these countries have been benefiting from such kind of effort of ECOWAS. So it is honestly speaking wrong for them to argue that ECOWAS have not done anything for them as far as keeping them together and helping them to address their fundamental challenges of insecurity is concerned. But rather, I would say that it is individual member countries of ECOWAS that have not been supportive of each other, and that is why we are where we are today. And that is why even this particular conflict or crisis, or crisis between ECOWAS and these three major countries, is now being reduced to conflict or crisis between Nigeria and, of course, these affected countries. And I think this is very dangerous for us, especially if we are looking for a way to deal with this particular problem.
Absolutely, Prof. So what
Yes.
should President Tinubu, as the current chairman of the body, do to rescue ECOWAS and restore democracy in the region? In less than 1 minute.
I think the best way to go is to sit down on a round table, to negotiate and discuss how these problems can be, honestly speaking, resolved. In fact, it is annoying and disturbing that 7 months after the last coup, we couldn't even sit down and think of how to go about dealing with this particular problem. And that goes to suggest that either that authority of heads of states and government of ECOWAS is not willing, and of course, including even the affected countries, to deal with the problem once and for all, or their sheer incompetence on the part of all the principal actors in this particular crisis to deal with this particular problem once and for all. Right. Therefore, the chairman of the authority of heads of states and government of ECOWAS must do everything humanly possible, must explore all diplomatic means to ensure that those members that have withdrawn, or that have submitted their letters of withdrawal, are brought back to negotiating table, so that those gray areas or any problem areas that ECOWAS had with them, I think, can be finally resolved and be dealt with once and for all.
Fantastic. Professor Abubakar Abdullahi, Professor of Government and Politics Department, Political Science, Usman Danfodio University. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof, and helping us with some insight into this ongoing conversation. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. See you tomorrow.